word for word. Raja, the king. Uvacha, inquired. Brahmana, by Lord Brahma. Choditaha, being instructed. Brahman, O learned Brahmana Sukadev Goswami. Guna Akhayani, in narrating the transcendental qualities. Agunasya, of the Lord, who is without material qualities. Cha and Narada Muni, Deva Darshana, one whose audience is as good as that of any demigod. Translation. King Parikshit inquired from Sukadev Goswami, how did Narada Muni, whose hearers are as fortunate as those instructed by Lord Brahma, explain the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is without material qualities, and before whom did he speak? So repeat. King Parikshit inquired from Sukadev Goswami. How did Narada Muni, whose hearers are as fortunate as those instructed by Lord Brahma, explain the transcendental qualities of the Lord, who is without material qualities, and before whom did he speak? Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki. Devasa Narada was directly instructed by Brahmaji, who was also directly instructed by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the instructions imparted by Narada to his various disciples are as good as those of the Supreme Lord. That is the way of understanding the Vedic knowledge. It comes down from the Lord by disciplic succession, and his transcendental knowledge is distributed to the world by the descending process. There is no chance, however, to receive the Vedic knowledge from mental speculators. Therefore, whenever Narada Muni goes, he represents himself as authorized by the Lord, and his appearance is as good as that of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Similarly, the disciplic succession, which strictly follows the transcendental instructions, is a bona fide chain of disciplic succession. And the test for such bona fide spiritual masters is that there should be no difference between the instructions between the Lord originally imparted to his devotee and that which is imparted by the authority in the line of disciplic succession. How did Narada Muni distribute the transcendental knowledge of the Lord will be explained in the later cantos. It will appear also that the Lord existed prior to the material creation, and therefore his transcendental name, qualities, etc. do not represent any material quality. Whenever therefore the Lord is described as a guna, or without any quality, it does not mean that he has no quality, but that he has no material quality, such as the modes of goodness, passion and ignorance, as the conditioned souls have. He is transcendental to all the material conceptions, and thus he is described as a guna. Hare Krishna, everyone. First, I'd like to ask for the blessings of the senior devotees, that I may say something of use. So I offer my obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and my spiritual master. So we're starting a new chapter today, which is really exciting, and it's a really exciting chapter. Questions by King Parikshit Maharaj. So I thought I'll just do a little preview of what's to come this month, just a short little preview, then I'll get talking. So we're going in numbers through the certain verses of this chapter, get people more and more excited for the months coming. So 1, please speak about Narada Muni's preaching exploits. So that's what I'll be talking about today. 2 is please speak Harikatha, as it can produce auspiciousness in the whole world. 3, please speak in such a way that I can give up my body while absorbing my detached mind in Krishna. 4. The Lord quickly enters the heart of one who faithfully hears about him. 5. How hearing leads to remembrance. Krishna, in the form of Hari Katha, enters the heart through the ear and washes away all contamination. 6. Such a person who has achieved the remembrance of the Lord through the process of hearing never gives up the lotus feet of the Lord. 7. How did the jiva who is spiritual attain a spirit? How did the jiva who is spiritual attain a body which is material? 8. The body of the Lord and those of the common living entities looks the same. What is the difference between them? 9. Brahma appeared from the navel of the Lord. Is the form of the Lord similar to that of the material body of Brahma, or is it different? 10. Where does Karan-dakshini Vishnu lie? 11. Are there any more details about the description of the universal form? 12 to 14 about colour and karma. 12. Speak about Vikalpa, about how time is perceived in the various ages and in the various planetary systems. 13a, dimensions of time. 13b, about karmic reactions. 14, how do various karmic activities lead to various bodies. 15, creations of various places in the universe and about creation of their inhabitants. 16a, dimensions of the universe. 16b, activities of the devotees. 16c, about Varnashram. 17, about Yuga's duration, Yuga Dharma and activities of Yuga avatars. 18, about Sararana Dharma, Vishadharma and Apad Dharma. 19, speak about the elements. 19b, worship the Purusha avatars. 19c, Yuga Mishra Bhakti. 28, the opulence, destination and destruction of the subtle body of the yogi. 20, conclusion of the Vedic scriptures. 21, deliverance from samsara for all living entities. 21, favourable and unfavourable activities for bhakti. The rules of the Vedic Smarta, Kamya and Trivargic karmas. Creation of the prasandis, and 22 about the Nitya siddhas. So that's just a little preview of what's to come in this chapter and what to look forward to this month, which is pretty exciting. It's a very exciting chapter. So today I'm going to touch a little bit on Narada Muni. I'm going to talk about some of his disciples and how he passes down his transcendental knowledge. So Narada Muni is known to all of us as the transcendental spaceman. Narada Muni travels through space and he holds this beautiful veena and he sings the Lord's glories everywhere he goes. And he stated in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, chapter 6, verse 34, he makes an observation and he says, everyone within this material world, they're bewildered by anxiety and worry. That's taken up their mind. But hearing the glories of the Lord is a perfect boat that one can cross this ocean of innocence. So we don't know the power of this holy name. It's so powerful. And his work is travelling throughout space, passing this on to everyone. It goes on to say that people in today's age they're not serious about spiritual realization. They're not hungry for spiritual advancement. We're not wanting to do great austerities, penances. We don't have it in us. People are tired, lazy. But we're so fortunate. We've got the holy name. It's easy to access. We can gain much benefit from it. And the thing about Narada Muni, Lord Chaitanya, he revealed that Narada Muni is a Sakshavesh avatar. So he's not the same as the Lord, but he's got the same opulence as the Lord. And he uses that opulence to preach the glories of the Lord to the most fallen. That's his work. It's so amazing. And in his book, the Narada Bhakti Sutras, which I'm reading at the moment, he says that we're all thinking, feeling and willing. That's the way it is within the material world. But we've got to direct that towards somewhere else. And Srila Prabhupada gives a good example. Srila Prabhupada says, instead of talking about the politics of a dying man, talk about the politics administrated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Instead of watching movies on the big screen, we can hear about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna. And this changes one's consciousness. So that's Narada Muni now, travelling around, giving his Hare Krishna mantra to everyone while playing his veena. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Vyas, who's one of his disciples, he questions him. He says, "What were you in your past life, Narada?" And Narada goes on to say that I was the son of a maidservant. And I was very fortunate. The house that my mum was looking after, a cottage my mother was looking after, there was brahmanas staying there in the winter season, in the autumn. And because I was with my mum, I got the transcendental association of these brahmanas. And just for that short amount of time, I became purified, little bit by little bit. And he said that the brahmanas, the Bhaktivedantas, they picked up on his transcendental qualities just in his last life. They could see that he was very humble, he was meek, he didn't have many material desires, so they just began to rain their mercy upon him. And there was a day when he was giving them the prasadam, and there was some remnants on the plate. And Narada Muni asked these Bhaktivedantas, these brahmanas, "Can I have these remnants?" And they were like, "Yeah, of course, you can have these remnants." And he takes these remnants off the plate, and once again, he starts to take on the qualities of these devotees. And as I was reading this, I was kind of meditating on how potent this Krishna consciousness process is. We see Narada Muni in his past life by getting this association, sadhu sangha, sadhu sashta kaya. By getting this association, one's consciousness is completely transformed. Then we see that was just the beginning for him. Then he takes prasadam. These are activities that we do every day. He just took a morsel of prasadam. And it describes in the scriptures that he took on the qualities of these brahmanas, these Bhaktivedantas. So after that level, it's just amazing when you really think about it. Everything that we touch in Krishna consciousness, there's so much gold in there, or more than gold. We have the holy name. We hear about Ajamil within the scriptures. Narayan, liberated. We hear about Narada Muni in his past life through the association of devotees and through taking prasadam. And we hear how potent the holy places are. There's a beautiful story in the Garga Samhita about the potency of Govardhan Hill in part 3, chapter 10 to 12, where that Brahmana's walk around Govardhan Hill and he comes into contact with that Rakshasa. There's a whole pastime behind it, and he protect himself from this Rakshasa who has a tongue like 7 hands long. The hairs on his body are like thorns. He throws Govardhan Shila at his head. And he just collapses, leaves his body, and this big transcendental body comes out of there. And he's liberated from this Govardhan Shila. It's so potent. All of Krishna consciousness. Every day we've just got a great opportunity. So Narada Muni, in his past life, he's taken this prasadam, and after he's taken the prasadam and he's got their association, he's then able to hear, he's able to understand their teachings. And for the rest of the time they're giving these teachings to young Narada Muni in his past life. And he's becoming more and more purified. Then autumn's over, the rainy season's over, and the Brahmanas leave, the Bhaktivedantas, which means knower of the Vedas through Bhakti Yoga, through devotional service. So they've left, and his student Vyas, he asked him, he says, "What did you do when they left? What did you do for the remainder of your time?" And Narada Muni says he attained so much knowledge and his heart was really transformed. But he had his mother, and he was tied in deep affection with his mother. So that's where his attention was going, because she was giving him so much attention, looking after him. And he explains that there was a night and his dear mother was milking a cow and she got bit by a snake. And by time she was taken away. And his time came. He was 5 years old. He had no one. His mother had just left. And it was his time to put all his dependence on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. He describes, he's only 5 years old. We can't imitate this, he's a special personality. He's 5 years old, he enters into the forest, he goes north. And it says that he's walking through pipes, bamboo, long sharp grass, weeds, caves. He goes through these big, dark, dingy forests, which are full of jackals, owls, snakes. This is a 5-year-old boy, he's walking through there on his journey. And he arrives at this banyan tree and he sits down and he begins to meditate on Krishna within his heart. And he's meditating on Krishna's lotus feet. And this isn't some speculation process that he's doing, which we can see here. This is passed down through disciplic succession. He was taught proper processes by the Brahmanas which he came into contact with, which is a very important teaching to get knowledge, which is descending. And he begins to meditate on the Supreme Lord's lotus feet. And tears are flowing from his eyes. And the Lord's within his heart. And he disappears, and all of a sudden he opens his eyes and the Lord is standing before him. And he goes on to describe the Lord and how it's really hard. It's hard to describe the Lord's features with our material conception. He goes on to say how beautiful he is with his garlands and how beautiful his eyes and lips were. And he's completely ecstatic. And all of a sudden, whoosh, he disappears. And he's chasing that again. He's meditating on the Lord. But we go back to a teaching, what Srila Prabhupada taught in this spiritual process, this science of self-realization. It's not something mechanical that we can do. We can't sit there and be like, Lord, appear before me. Lord, appear before me right now. It's not like that. It's through his mercy that we see the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada also said a famous statement, don't try to see the Lord, try to be seen by the Lord. So he enters meditation again and the Lord's voice appears and he says, you won't see me again in this life. You were very fortunate in this life. One has to be very purified to see me in this lifetime. He goes, I appear before you to create more hankering within your heart, more desire with me within your heart. And once again, gone. So that gave him more eagerness, more desire to achieve this science of self-realization, to become Krishna consciousness, to become a servant of Krishna. And for the remainder of his life, after that it says that he goes around and he's preaching Krishna Katha, he's chanting the holy names. And he's always thinking about Krishna. That one moment where he's seeing Krishna, always on his mind. When it came to the end of his life, and just like all of us, death comes to everyone, even though most people think death is not coming. Yudhisthira asked Yamaraj Maharaj what is the most wonderful thing here, and he actually said that we're living our life, and so many of our forefathers are leaving their bodies. So many of our friends, relatives and families, they're all leaving their bodies, but not me. I'm not going to leave my body. I'm going to be okay. But yeah, it's a fact. We're all going to experience that at some stage. So death came to greet him, and he said when his time came, he explains it within the scriptures like it was like lightning and luminous at the same time. That's how fast it was. So lightning and the light, what comes with it. Then he received a transcendental body, which is fully spiritual, and not material at all. And he is known as the person we know today as a transcendental spaceman. So that's a little bit of a background on Narada Muni. And when we read the scriptures, Narada Muni has plenty of disciples. And like I said before, he's specially empowered. He can preach to the lowest among lowest. And he shows how potent this holy name is. In other ages, they followed certain yogic systems and things like this, and we really struggle in today's age to follow these kind of processes. But we're so fortunate today that we've got the holy name. Most people can't even sit for 2 hours with their eyes shut in today's society. So very fortunate to have the holy name. So one of his disciples, and how he preached to this disciple is quite amazing. His name, Ratnakara. We did a play about Ratnakara not that long ago. So Ratnakara, he was actually a little boy. He was around 5 years old, and he wandered into the forest one day, and he got lost. He got lost within that forest. He was only a little boy. He was completely bewildered. And he came into contact with a hunter. And he didn't know what to do. He was just a lost little boy, so the hunter took him in. And the hunter had much affection for him, and his wife had took care of him very nicely. And being the stepson of a hunter, he learnt many hunting abilities and became a great hunter himself. And as he got older, he started to desire a partner, and he ended up getting married. He married a beautiful lady, and they had some children together. And that's when things started to turn. Ratnakara had a family to support, and he turned to a way of life which wasn't the best for him or his family. So Ratnakara became the most famous and ferocious robber of that time. He was taking all these belongings from people passing through, going into the next village, and really hurt people. And one day he came into contact with Narada Muni. Very fortunate. And he tried to rob Narada Muni, and Narada Muni pulled him up, and Narada Muni said, "You're acquiring a lot of sin for these activities that you're performing. Don't you know this?" And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm doing this for my family. I need to support my family. I must do this. Must put food on the table." And he says, "Well, if you're supporting your family, you're acquiring a lot of karma for this. So why don't you go and ask your family to take a portion of your karma and share the karma if it's for all of you." So he goes back to his family. He says how he's met this Brahmana in the forest, Narada Muni. And he told me that I'm acquiring a lot of karma for all these sinful activities that I'm committing. And Yamaraj is going to come and get me. And he asked me to ask you guys, my family, if I can spread my karma. We can all share it. And in the play we add a little bit, you know. His wife was, I love you, but I don't love you that much. So they're just like, oh, we're not taking your karma. So he goes back to the forest and he's really meditating on what Narada Muni said, and he can't continue the work that he's doing. He can't do it. And he meets Narada Muni again, and what did your family say? And he was like, they didn't want any part to do in my karma. And he was like, so you see, we'll see. So he started to listen to Narada Muni. And he was really sinful, Ratnakara, really sinful. He couldn't even say the name Rama. He'd be like, say the name Rama, Mara, Rama, Mara, Rama, Mara. He couldn't say. He was just so sinful. And he said, look, sit down in this spot right here, and you just say the name Mara, Rama backwards. And Ratnakara, he begins, Mara, 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 Mara. He's meditating. And, time has passed, and Narada Muni comes back in front of his friends. He's like, there's someone here I instructed, Ratnakara. He's meditating around here somewhere. And they see this anthill. And this anthill, they hear a sound coming from this anthill. And he's been meditating on Mara for so long that he's starting to say Rama, Rama, Mara, Rama, Mara, Rama, Rama, Mara. All of a sudden he's saying Rama. Rama, 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 Rama. And they find him in this anthill. And one of the most sinful men to live at this time, and all the damage that he was doing to society at that time, to the instruction of Narada Muni to chant this little mantra, was completely purified. This is once again the potent, these holy names. And so Ratnakara went from being one of the most sinful people ever to walk this planet to be the one to write one of the most transcendental books of all time, the Ramayana. And this is the potency of this preaching coming down to cyclic succession, especially when it's coming from a devotee. He was then given a name Valmiki, which means anthill. Yeah, anthill? Yeah. He's got many more disciples. Dhruva, I'm sure some of you have heard about Dhruva Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam, especially Canto 4. I think Canto 4, pretty sure. So Dhruva Maharaj is another extraordinary personality. Dhruva Maharaj was the son of a king, Uttanapad was the king, and he had 2 wives, and he begot children to each of those wives. So each of those wives had a son, and one day Dhruva's brother, he was playing on the lap of the king, and Dhruva wanted to get up on his father's lap also, and Dhruva tries to get up onto the lap. And he's not really interested in him. He's much more favourable to the other wife and the other child. And the other wife comes over and starts chastising Dhruva. You can't sit on this throne. You haven't come from my womb. And he's crying. He's so upset. And she's like, the only way that you can get on this throne if you worship the personality of Godhead and take birth again from my womb, then you can sit on this throne. But otherwise, no way. So poor Dhruva, he's just shocked. He's really upset. Tears flowing from his eyes. And he goes to his mother and he tells her what's just happened. And his mother's like, yeah, it's just an unfortunate thing that the king loves this wife more and this child more. And he said how the other wife said, I should get to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, worship the Personality of Godhead. And she agreed. She also advised on that. And young Dhruva, once again, just a young boy, he went into the forest. He wanted to worship the Personality of Godhead. At first, he didn't go into the forest to worship the Personality of Godhead to attain the ultimate goal of self-realization. He wanted to worship the Personality of Godhead to get a kingdom greater than his father's. He wanted to worship the Personality of Godhead to get a kingdom greater than Lord Brahma's, stated in the scriptures. That was his intention. This little boy, he wanders off into the forest. And he's asking everyone, where's God? Who's God? He's trying to find, he wants answers. And he comes into contact with Narada Muni. And this is another important lesson, that when someone's really searching, when someone's really eager to come closer to God, Krishna sends a person or a representative to that person. It happened to me, a short story, just in between this. So I was really searching for many, many years, since I was a little boy, but it intensified. And I had a dream about the Bhagavad Gita. And I was like, I need to get my hands on this book. And I was looking everywhere. It was a yellow, as it is Bhagavad Gita. I went to bookshops, they didn't have that one. So I was saying, no, it's not that one. And I just had this urge. I was spending a lot of time by myself then, because I really had no one to spend my time with. And I just thought, I'm just going to go to Byron Bay. I'm going to just sit there by myself. I'm just going to read lots of books. And I'm still thinking about this Bhagavad Gita, and I walk around the street on the second day to get a juice from the juice shop there, and Charanavinda's standing there with the Bhagavad Gita just like this. So it kind of relates to this story. When someone's ready and when someone's really looking, Krishna sends one of his representatives. It's really amazing. So Narada Muni, he appears before young Dhruva, and He sees how young he is. He's, I think you're, going a bit too far. You've left your family, you've came into the forest. I think you should wait till you're a bit older. You're only a very young boy. But he wouldn't have it. He's like, no, I need to do this. And so he starts to take up some instruction by Narada Muni. And that was to follow the Eightfold Yoga process. He was doing certain mantras. And it's pretty amazing. It is said within the first month, this is just a young boy, we can't imitate this either. It'd be impossible to imitate. He was just a young boy. In the first month, he was taking fruit and berries every 3 days. In the second month, he was taking leaves and grass every 6 days. In the third month, he was taking just water every 9 days. In the fourth month, he was holding his breath. He was just breathing every 12 days. Then the next month after that, he was standing on one leg, holding his breath. He was like a pillar, not moving. And then in the next month, he completely entered into trance. And it is said that, of course, he wasn't breathing. Like all the no one in the universe could breathe. All the demigods were freaking out. And Krishna was like, "Oh, it's okay. He's meditating on me. I'll go and talk to him." And once again, a young boy so fortunate, Krishna appeared before him. Vishnu appeared before him, and gave him some instructions. He gave him a boon. He said, the penances and austerities that he had performed, that he would take on the kingdom here for 36,000 years, and he would also get his own planet, which is the polar star, Dhruvaloka. So his father, who is a king, hears about this when he's returning home, and they go and greet him with all chariots, and they hear about the pastimes that have been happening, and he offers his obeisances before his father, who is a king. His stepmother offers his obeisances, and he actually takes on the throne, and he rules for 36,000 years. And as he took on the throne, his dad, who was the king at the time, went into the forest and meditated on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And at the end of Dhruva's long life here, he was a fantastic, wonderful personality. When death came to greet him, and he said that a golden plane came from the spiritual world, and as he was leaving, his body was becoming spiritual, and death came to greet him, and he stepped on death's head to hop into the golden aeroplane, which is really amazing. And as he was going back to the spiritual world in the golden aeroplane, it is said that he couldn't. There was something in him which was resisting. And there was two people within that airplane who came and got him. They had the exact same bodies as Vishnu. It is described within the scriptures. He said to them, I can't go. I can't leave. Because I can't... This is a really important story for those who, within Krishna consciousness, with parents who don't understand Krishna consciousness. Dhruva Maharaj was like, I can't leave. I can't leave my mother. My mother was so dear to me. She was one of my original teachers. She's the one who encouraged me when I was younger. She was the one who enabled me to do what I was able to do. He goes, I can't leave. I can't go back to the spiritual world without my mother. And the two personalities were with him at the time in the golden airplane. They said, don't worry, your mum's coming also. And she was behind him, going back to the spiritual world also. It's one of the greatest things that a child can do for their parents, actually. This Krishna consciousness, it's so powerful, it's so potent, and not only do we do this for ourselves, but we do that for the people around us, and they get great benefit. It's described throughout all the scriptures how much benefit the parents get if their child is Krishna consciousness. And it doesn't stop at the parents, it can go down for generations. So it's unfortunate that a lot of parents don't know how amazing Krishna consciousness is and how amazing their destination is going to be due to their child. They're just caught up within this material world. A few more minutes left. Dhruva Maharaj ki! So once again coming into contact with the great Narada Muni. And also he was another short story, he was also the spiritual master of Prahlad Maharaj, and once again we can see the potency within the teachings through the disciplic succession coming down from Krishna. So Prahlad Maharaj, we know that he was the son of Hiranyakashipu, a big demon, and he had a brother, Hiranyakashi. They were really big demons at that time, and that everyone feared them. Even the demigods were shaken in their boots, you could say. And he was in the womb at the time of Kayadu, his mother. And a demigod, Devendra, came down, and he wanted to get rid of that child. He didn't want another Hiranyakashipu. They already went through enough. So he came down and he was dragging her away, and Narada Muni heard the cries for help, and Narada Muni went down, like, what are you doing? You can't do this. You can't hurt this woman. It's one of the great offences to hurt a woman. And he started questioning him, and he said, it's not actually the woman that I'm after. I'm after this child. This child is the son of Hiranyakashipu, and we don't need that all over again. He's going to be another big demon, and he's going to cause hell. And Narada Muni said, no, actually, this is the great soul within here. And he actually took them. He took them to his ashram, where many spiritual people were living. And for that time, she got a lot of association with transcendental personalities there. And Narada Muni would teach her the philosophy of Krishna consciousness to the child, about the senses, about the modes of nature, about the material world, about the spiritual world, about our relationship with God, with our relationship with others, how Krishna is within everything. And he said that the mother, she forgot a lot of the stuff that he was teaching. But not Prahlad. Prahlad was in that womb of his mother, and he was just soaking it up. And once again, through that association with a great spiritual master within the disciplic succession, one can become completely purified through this Krishna Katha and the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. It's so powerful. So we all know the story of Prahlad Maharaj. He turned out to be one of the greatest devotees ever, known all around the world, the worlds. And once again, due to the amazing preaching and association of the great one, Narada Muni. Prahlad Maharaj ki! Narada Muni ki! Yes, in today's class, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Narada Muni and his place within the disciplic succession, and how potent it is to hear Krishna Katha and to get the holy name from someone in the disciplic succession. We're so fortunate we're in that. We're getting this knowledge from Srila Prabhupada, so we're very, very fortunate. And one last point I'll add, a lot of people get asked about Narada Muni, and it is said that at the end of each millennium, Narayan lays down on the water of destruction, and everything starts to enter into the body, including Lord Brahma and all his creation, including Narada Muni. After a certain time, so 4,300,000 times 1,000, everything goes in again. And all the rishis like Marichi and Narada Muni, they all come in again due to the will of the Lord. So Narada Muni's appearance is no different than Krishna's appearance. His appearance and disappearance is no different than Krishna's. So a very transcendental personality. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Thank you. Any questions, add-ons, corrections?
Thank you, Guru. I'm just curious, why did Narada Muni head north? Was he instructed to just go?
I think it was something that great sages did back in the day. I'm pretty sure. Is that Himalayas? Yeah, Himalayas. Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's why it was so hard for him to leave at the end of his life. He's like, I'm not leaving without my mother. He's seen her as one of his original teachers. Yeah. Srila Prabhupada ki.